So the next question from Angrysnowboarder VIP, which if you're not a member, I don't know why you're not, comes from Noai Pedersen Olsen. I know some pros like Aero Edela use the same board for everything, park, pow, jibs, urban, etc. I think he said something along the lines of how it helped him focus on perfecting technique rather than having many boards that help you in different situations. For example, a super floaty pow board, small easy jib board, etc. But not sure what his explanation was exactly. Besides that, it also helps him feel more connected to his board. I also remember Ståle Sandbeck mentioning his regular board's nose felt short and sketchy at Locks Open after having ridden a POW board at Austria the entire week before. What's your take on this? Is it beneficial to only have one or two boards to progress on in most conditions and areas rather than having several different boards, or does this only apply to pros who obviously are on a completely different level than us? What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Kind of a little bit of both. I think, we were kind of briefly talking about this before we turned all the electronics back on here, and a lot of it for them is they're riding at such a high level, they need that predictability. They need to know exactly what their board's going to feel like, and they can't really be changing boards because it changes everything that they're doing on top of it. You load it different, you initiate your turns different, your body positioning for takeoff, landing, all that's different if you change boards. So they need to stay consistent in order to perform at that crazy high level that they do. There are some pros out there that will change boards here and there, but it's not very common that they do it, and usually it's like, they're going to bald face, so they're going to bring a pow deck, but yeah, so there's that side of it. Now, as far as for the general public is concerned, there's kind of a little bit of both, where you can definitely get some benefit out of having a little bit of a quiver, where you don't get the luxury of it's dumping a bald face. All right, well, let's get on a plane and go fly out there because I have to go film and whatever. Like, you don't have that luxury. So if there's a POW day, you need to be able to take advantage of it and milk it for everything it's got, because you don't know when the next one's going to be, and you can't guarantee there's going to be a next one. So at that point, having a actual POW board makes some sense, because you're going to be able to get the most out of the situation. Now, I would definitely say when you start talking about stuff like park, or if you really want to get into carving, when you are talking specifically about progression, there is something to be said about having one board that you're on every single day, because you're going to learn every little minute nuance of that board and how it reacts, and you're going to be able to develop yourself way more because of the consistency of that board. The consistency is really the key part of it.
So this is my theory, and this goes back to like the way I grew up in the mid-90s and late 90s snowboarding. In like September, October, I would buy my board. On a good year, the resort would maybe open the tail end of November.
Yep.
But realistically, it would be open right about middle of December. So the way I did everything was, you bought that one board. That was your board for the year. You learned you wanted to go carve that day. That was it. You you're riding POW. That was it. That. I mean, you're a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. You don't have multiple boards.
Right.
You usually have the board from the previous season if you didn't sell it.
Yep.
And you have a current year board. So the way I learned, one, it was all camber all the time.
Yep.
There was nothing else.
Was just and when we're talking about older pros, like he specifically mentioned Aero, like a lot of that is because that's what he learned to snowboard on, and that's what he became a pro on. And back then, that's all there was. Mm-hmm. So at this point, that's just what he's going to keep riding. That's what he knows.
So this was my theory. So back then, to be a well-rounded rider, you just rode everything with that one board.
Yep.
You were hitting urban, that was it. You were riding the half pipe, that was it. Jumps, that, carving, powder, whatever. So I didn't own multiple boards till I moved west. And that year, I think I owned 3 boards. 2 I inherited. And but at the time, it was like one board. You learned, and you made that thing. You learned that tool. You used it as a tool.
Yeah.
you mastered that tool. If I went to a demo back in the day, like, I could tell you the difference. Like, I'd be like, it doesn't ride like my board. That was my big issue. And it's the same issue. I see people all the time. It doesn't ride like my board. You don't have that consistency.
Right.
As you progress, if you are not at a top tier level, and let's be real, anyone that's watching this is not a top tier pro.
No.
Like, that is a cold hard fact. That is not our demographic. As you progress, you start to learn that there are limitations on any snowboard. So you pick up a second board. Maybe it's a free ride board. Maybe it's a powder board. Maybe it's a short fat. Whatever it is. You then master that board if you can. Learn the nuances. You learn what it does well and what it doesn't, and where its limitations are. So, like for me, classic example. So I have an interior plane project, Honolulu. I also had a 154 Arbor Westmark Midwap. Two opposite camber profiles. If I was riding pipe and I wanted a good edge hold and I really wanted a lot of snap, it was Honolulu. If I wanted to be lazy, cruise, butter, play around, that's where the Westmark was. Okay. I have a 144 K2 Cool Beam. I have a 158 in different archetype. Both are swallowtails. Both ride entirely different than each other. I would rather go ride low angle POW on my Cool Beam and ride slush with it and do that. But if it is a blower powder day and I'm getting on steep and deep, it is the archetype, hands down, every single time. I have a 157 Dinosaurs Will Die Brewster. That is my all mountain board. That I can go ride POW if I want to. I can ride park. I can ride a groomer with it. That board is a jack of all trades. I like jack of all trades boards because then I'm not fully limited. But I will tell you this right now. My favorite board out of everything I own to ride in the park is my Cool Beam. And everyone's like, that's insane. And I was like, it's not soft. It does not butter well.
No.
It really does not press too well on rails.
No.
But it balances super great when you get sideways. You just like... I love that thing. I just love the way that thing rides. And doing that. But I think as a rider, you hit a point, and it's like when you're a kid and you go down into Dad's basement or into the garage and you see all of his tools. And you're like, why the hell does he have 5 different fucking hammers?
Yeah.
They all do the same thing, but the ball peen is different than the claw, is different than the mallet, is different than the sledgehammer. Yeah. They all serve a purpose. Dad understands this. He has mastered that the claw hammer will not work like the sledgehammer, will not work like the rubber mallet.
Right.
It is the same concept right there. And I think pros are so dialed into that one setup and what they're hitting, they need that consistency. I need that consistency in bindings. There is a reason I have the exact same bindings on everything.
Yeah.
Multiple sets. It makes my life easier, especially when I go to test. Be like, yeah, okay, I do have ones that I favor over others, but they will flex the same, they will fit the same, they were matched up to my boot the same. And that is it. It is the same reason that I have one pair of boots and I get the same pair of boots over and over and over again.
Yep.
Consistency. It is the reason right now with my car and getting winter tires, I'm going to get the exact same winter tires I had before. Why? It will drive exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, consistency is key. I think for the average rider, they might not have as much consistency, but I also see these guys, a lot of them are from Dig My Quiver, and they're just like, they buy boards for the sake of saying that they own it, but they haven't mastered that board. They don't understand the nuances of that board.
Right.
Are you dying on me? Your eyes have gotten
know.
super bloodshot. Are you sure you're not doing cocaine?
Are
you doing meth?
I'm a little too mellow and tired to be doing coke.
You snorting heroin?
Can you even do that?
Yes.
Well, no.
You could do heroin and gunpowder all at once. Don't
So
worry
it
about
explodes?
it. No, don't worry about it. Just gives you a little added kick.
But yeah, I completely agree. And I think your hammer analogy is perfect. Like, you have to be a skilled craftsman in order to really get the most use out of having all those different hammers. Like, you built yourself a birdhouse out of a kit. You don't need to go get yourself 6 hammers.
No.
That's pointless. You're not going to know how to use all of them, and you're not going to get the benefit out of all of them, and you could really break something realistically. So kind of the same thing goes with snowboards. So if you've been snowboarding for a year, you don't need a quiver.
No.
You need to have if you get to a point where you've got your one board quiver, which is more or less what everybody should start with, and you've gotten pretty dang good at riding all conditions with that one board quiver, then you could start branching out.
Exactly, and that's why I feel like boards like the Jones Mountain Twin, the Captain Mercury, the Guest Typo, the Ride Algorithm, the Rosnell 1, let's see what else is out there.
K2 Broadcast, I'd say.
K2 Broadcast, the
Rome National,
the Battalion, I guess it would be the Jam, would probably be in there.
Coda Rocker, I'd say.
Coda Rocker, Coda Camber.
Yeah.
Burton Custom.
Yep.
Those boards that are jack of all trades decks. They are quintessential boards that anyone can ride and ride anywhere. They don't excel at any one thing.
Right.
They're solid like that. That's why those boards, I think, sell through. They have consistent sell through. They're known. They're solid. It's the Rad Dad board. It's the everyman. It is your quintessential claw hammer. You know, it's a swing line. You can. It'll put that nail in. It'll pull the nail out. You can tap things along. But it's not a rubber mallet. It's not a ball peen. It's not a sledgehammer.
Right.
It'll get the job done though when you need it to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it sits in there. Is that category of board, and I think that a lot of people are over here overanalyzing. Like they get shocked at how many boards are out there.
Right.
And so then suddenly they see that, oh well, so and so has 3 snowboards. I have to have 3 snowboards. No,
right.
Man, you literally. I dated a chick once that she was a board hoarder. Anytime she rode it, it was the best thing ever, and she had to have it. And I think at one point she was up to like 22 snowboards, and I was like, and yet she would just ride the very basic all mountain freestyle board,
right,
all the time. That was like her go-to, and that's what she did. And I was like, you have all these boards that you paid almost full price for, and you fucking never ride them. And I see a lot of people like that. It's like, realistically, I will probably do a top 5 on the top 5 boards you should have if you want to have a full quiver.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. But for most people, 2 boards.
Yeah,
that's realistically it.
Yep.
After you've gotten to the point where you mastered that first board, that's the all-mountain jack of all trades board.
Right.
I don't really think there's much more I can say on that topic.
Yeah.
So hopefully it answers that question.
Yeah, it should.